Hello and welcome to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. I'm Emma, a mama of 2 girls, an ex-nursery practitioner and the creator of the Non-Perfect Parents Club. The Non-Perfect Parents Club is all about support, honesty, truths, acknowledging that none of us can be perfect parents because it's impossible, and basically just speaking the unspoken. The only rule here is no judgment allowed. I love hearing people's stories. I love finding out about other parents, their family dynamics, their values and how they tick. So that is what this podcast is going to be. Some great honest conversations about parenting, hopefully delving into some nitty-gritty thoughts and feelings that will make us all laugh, cry and sigh a big sigh of relief. This episode is sponsored by Reading Fairy Lancaster. Reading Fairy Lancaster offers weekly sessions for children aged 1 to 4 years old to foster a love of reading for life through play and laughter. Songs, interactive storytelling, early phonics, games and book sharing. Give your child the best start with learning and development while playing and having lots of fun. Contact Lancaster at readingfairy.com for more information. Nursery sessions and birthday parties are also available. Please visit www.readingfairy.com/Lancaster or their social media platforms to find out more. Not local to Lancaster, please visit www.readingfairy.com to find a Reading Fairy near you. And if you'd like to find out more about Reading Fairy, head to Season 2, Episode 4 to hear Kelly talk to us about why Reading Fairy is the full package. Hello and welcome back to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. Today I'm joined by Becky, a reception teacher who is here to share advice and tips for parents whose children are about to start reception this September. Hi Becky, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about who you are?
So I'm Becky. I've been a reception teacher in one way or another for nearly 20 years. Oh, that's terrible. That's very old. I'm also a mum of 2. I've got a 10-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, so I have been on both sides of the starting school. Being a reception, absolutely love reception, got a huge love for the journey the children go on in reception. It is one of the best ones to be part of and to observe. But done it a long time. I work at Westgate in Morecambe. Have been there a long time as well, but love it.
So every year, usually around this time of year, I speak to lots of parents who are about to send their child off to school for the very first time. And there are often lots of nerves. Yeah. It's the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You're handing your child to someone that we see your child more than you will probably end up seeing your child. And it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And
as parents, we can sometimes worry more than the children.
Yeah, definitely.
When you've not done it before, it's very daunting, isn't it? And it's often the first time you're having to take those steps of letting go a little bit, which it feels very soon at like age 4 and nearly 5 to be doing. You don't expect it, do you?
No.
So I feel like there's a million things that we could discuss, but shall we start with what are the most helpful things we can be doing as parents to prepare our child for the transition to reception?
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the basics. So the basics of like their self-care. So let's do toileting. You know, we always love a toilet for. Unless there is a medical reason, which absolutely completely, we get there might be, but that they can toilet themselves as much as they can, that they can go to the toilet, they can pull their trousers up, they can wash their hands, they can, wipe their bottoms. I know we're talking really basics, but, it's just being able to do things like that. Being able to put their own coat on. Do a zip up. We will help. We will never let somebody sit there with an arm stuck out of, I'm doing arm impressions now, an arm stuck somewhere, or if they can't do a shoelace up, or we can't do, but also the reality is if there's a class of 30 and we are sat there having to, put, we're there to learn lots of other things as well. So being able to put a coat up, recognise your name. You don't need to be able to write your name. There's no expectation of that, but being able to recognise your name is quite helpful. So toileting, right, getting dressed. I mean, we come in our PE kits now, so we don't quite see it in the same way. And I know a lot of schools have gone down this route.
I feel like that's a massive game changer, isn't it?
It's been a huge game changer. There's nothing more interesting than doing a PE lesson that involves getting everyone changed and everyone back changed and making sure you found everybody's trousers, everybody's skirts, and has everybody put the right thing on, and no, that's backwards. Or then as they go out at the end of the day and you realise all jumpers are on backwards and you're like, oh, I'm really sorry. Or they've got 2 shoes that don't match, and and then actually in the middle of all this you've tried to teach a PE lesson. So but try as much as possible, and it helps you in the morning as well. You know, the children need their independent skills. It's like, you know, I quite often just say to my son, I'm like, right, go and get dressed. You know, it makes your life easier. Okay, doesn't do it quite as quick as I would like him to do, but you know, it's that. Another things, you know, getting them ready to be able to leave you. And I know that is easier said than done. You know, I've done it twice with 2 children, and you know, even my second child, when I dropped him off, I had a cry, and my husband sat there going, well, you get a grip, you're a reception teacher. And I was there going, I know, but it's my baby.
I think I was worse the second time around because I knew what was coming. I knew that school give the little thing to the parents.
Oh, I know, the nice little tea bag and the tissue.
Yeah, and I was just like, no, I can't read it.
No. I had to read it when I got back to the car, because otherwise I would have been. But preparing your child, you know, the reality is they have to come to school. You know, as hard as that is, the reality is it's their next step in life. One they're usually very, very ready for, more ready, as you said before, than we as parents are. You know, as parents we're a little bit like, oh no, I'd like to freeze you in this moment, and if you could stay at home with me forever, you know, I'd quite like that. But it is getting them ready to leave you, you know, and it's kind of being like, I'm still here. Even though you can't see me, I'm always here, I'm always at home, I'm always doing my jobs, I'm always at work, you know, whatever you do during the day that you're there, but getting them ready to give you just a big hug and off they pop. And then also as a parent leaving, again, it's really hard sometimes, and there's nothing worse than when we have to bring a child into school crying. It's not nice for us, it's not nice for the child, it's not nice for the parent. It's like a real kick in the gut, isn't it? You know, you get back in your car and you're thinking, I just want to go and pick them up and give them a big hug. But rest assured that we will be giving them that big hug in school, and we will be telling them it's okay, and we're very, very good at distracting. We're very, very good at being like, it's all, you know, it's okay, and you're going to really love it here. And do you know what? 9 times out of 10, probably even 9.5 times out of 10, by the time you've got back to your car, they are completely okay, you know. But it's still that separation, and you know, that does create anxiety for everybody.
And I think that's something I found when I worked in the early years. I was nursery based, not school, but we had a similar thing where you'd get tears in the morning, and the majority of the times, if the parent just kind of said the goodbyes, dropped and then went, by the time the parent got in the car, the child was settled. Whereas if they hung around sort of worrying, it just kind of prolonged it and made it worse.
Definitely.
So as hard as it is, I think it's definitely easier just to
it
say
is
goodbye,
just go, and, you know, and even if you have to go and have a cry and a bar of chocolate in your car, just, you know, it is. And trust us, you know, I completely appreciate your handing your child over to someone you don't know very well.
That's probably like one of the hardest things I think for parents, especially going from nursery to school. I feel like you build up quite a strong rapport with nursery, and you have like your key worker,
definitely.
And it's much closer, isn't it? Because it's just a different nature of care, isn't it?
You know, you will have only met me, like I'm thinking about our transition programme, you'll have only met me a couple of times, and quite often my focus is very, very much on the child, which is what it should be, but that means that you maybe haven't quite got to chat to me as much as maybe you would like, or you've not got to ask me all the questions. I mean, we're a very, very open school, and I know lots of schools do it very differently, but we always do a meet and greet on the door, so I'm always there first thing in the morning, I'm always there at the end of the day. We give out our emails, and again, I know different schools do different things, you know, and we're always very open, you know, however stupid a question it is, please ask. I'd much rather you ask me, you know, and I may not always have the answer. I might have to go and Google it after you've gone, or I might have to go and say, what's our policy on this kind of thing? But, you know, if that's going to make everybody anxious and add to their worries, I'd much rather you kind of came. And, you know, and I think you need to trust us, because, you know, we grow very attached to your child. You know, we do grow to love them, and we will do, you know, I always think, you know, I think, what would I want my children to be done? So you kind of think of that. I will look after your child how I want my child to be looked after. And we get very attached. I've met my new class this week, and then my current class came in the next day, and I was like, oh, now going and how big they've all got and the journey we've been on. But, we will do everything in our power to look after your child and make sure they have a really lovely year.
And that's just going back to kind of what you've said about how you do things at Westgate. That's maybe something that if you're not sure as a parent how the school your child is going to does like the communication thing, if they don't have the open door policy and that's maybe something worth asking and just finding out.
Definitely.
And then if you've got anything that you need to talk to the teacher about, at least you know how to get in contact with the teacher.
Because 4-year-olds, they'll be lovely. They'll also come home and, what have you done today? I've had lunch, or I've done nothing, or,
can't remember.
Yeah, because they're 4 and 5. So, sometimes you will have a question and the 4 and 5-year-old won't give you the answer you necessarily want, or there will be something that's upset them. That's what happens with life, isn't it? So sometimes, but again, they may not be able to put into words what has upset them and things, and that's why I think the teacher relationship is very important, because you can sit there and go, oh well, they were playing football on, and there was a bit of an argument about who had the ball, or they really annoyed each other today. We've just had to have a little bit of time and we spent. But also I think you need to be aware in reception we're there for the whole child. It's not just the academic progress, that's a huge part obviously, but when we come to the end of the early years, which is what they come to at the end of reception, we look at the emotional well-being of the child, we look at the social side of the child, we look at their physical development. We are there to develop every aspect of your child's life, which is why the relationships and the communication are so important.
So we got a few questions sent in. One of them was, how can we prepare them for change? And this parent was worried that their child wouldn't settle in.
I mean, I would keep talking to them. I mean, children are it's quite hard because you find out your place, don't you, in like May. And I think like the children think they're starting school literally that day, and September feels a long way off. I would make sure they go to every transition opportunity they possibly can. Again, schools do it differently, but and I completely understand it is very hard with work and everything, but ensure they go to every transition opportunity they have. I mean, I had to ask my own mum not to go on holiday in September. When mine started, she was talking about holidays, and I was like, I don't want to dictate your life, mum, but because I don't have any flexibility, I really need you to be around. I would talk to them a lot about it, show them the school website, if they've got a Facebook or a Twitter account, share lots about the school. We used to drive past in the summer holidays and things, I'd always make sure we drove down that road, even if it maybe wasn't like, oh, that's your big school, you're going to big school, how exciting. Let them be part of the whole process of picking their uniform, going to buy school shoes, all these things. Let them go and pick their own water bottle, these kind of things. Let them kind of go and just be part of the process. But I think the biggest thing is keep talking to them about it, and make sure you know their teacher's name and things. And quite often all our pictures will be on our school websites these days, and they'll be on the school Facebook page. And I know another thing we do as a school over the transition is we will post Facebook videos of us reading a story and things. And it's just doing things like that, and the child kind of goes, oh, that's Mrs. Renee, and I know her, and I'm going to be in her class. And it's just keep communicating with your child all the time.
And just kind of while we've mentioned like uniform, going back to things that we can be doing to prepare our child for the transition, I found as well it's important to think about when you're buying uniform, just kind of making sure it's uniform that's accessible for them, for like going to the toilet and stuff.
Don't think too much about, these days they do the pull-on trousers, and they do without the zips. They do the dresses that are much easier to get on and off. Sometimes the jumpsuits look lovely, but when you're 4 and you're going into a toilet that you've never seen before,
and you're desperate for the toilet,
that is quite a hard thing. Though a big thing with uniform is please name. Name every single item. Please go and buy as part of your uniform shop a fabric pen. I mean, a biro, anything.
I actually found, and I always say this to parents, I didn't buy any kind of stamp or anything like that. I found a black biro worked so well, and it got to kind of maybe halfway through the year before it even started to fade at all. So then I just topped it up, when I was ironing it, I just quickly rewrite the name, and it worked so well, rather than buying any of this fancy stuff.
No, my poor mum, I can remember spending summer sewing in like formal name labels, and we don't have the time, the energy, or the inclination to do anything. I mean, I buy the stickers, I'm even lazier, and they do go through the wash, they do everything. But naming, you spent a lot of money on this uniform. It's been a really proud moment to buy this uniform. But again, you know, it doesn't matter how many times we tell the child, you know, when you take your jumper off, put it on the peg, or put it in your tray, or put it in your bag. Well, they don't. They take it off because they're so busy and engaged that they'll just take their jumper off and they'll just leave it over in the workshop, or they'll have taken it off outside. And then at the end of the day, you have all these jumpers that are identical. We sniff them, you know.
I was going to say, I've seen the thing going around social media at the minute of the sniff test.
No, we sniff test and go, oh, that smells like that, Mum. We know they use that washing powder, or this child had spaghetti bolognese for lunch. So, we can see that all down the front of that. But a big plea, and I can assure you every teacher out there is name everything. You know, the water bottle they bring in, the book bag, the coat. You spent a lot of money on these things. I also would say make sure you do check the school's uniform policy. You know, don't go ad hoc and think, oh, I quite like that dress, and then turn up and find actually you're meant to wear grey at your school, or it's navy blue at your school, or black at your school. You know, schools will ask you to change.
And shoes as well. I think it's a big one with shoes.
No lights. No rolls. Just, and again, you know, especially I think in reception, you know, the Velcro's always quite good, and things, and no slip-ons. You know, we run a mile, we climb on things, we do bikes and trikes, we do all sorts, all in uniform. You know,
and that's the thing with reception, isn't it? It's still very play-based, isn't it?
Incredibly.
And active, and kind of doing all of the things. They're not just sat at a desk doing
it's you know, when you think a formal school of sat at a desk, that isn't reception. We are very much the link from nursery into that more formal aspect of school. We are that bridge to get them ready for school, and to really watch them grow from being a toddler. Essentially, they come to us and they feel like toddlers. They leave us, as I'm watching my class this week, and I think, oh, we've only got 2 weeks left, and their faces have changed. They've grown up, and they were laughing because I was hiding things from the new children coming into my room, and they were like, why are you hiding that? I said, oh, I had to do it last year with you. You know, it's like the paint's disappeared, the scissors went away, the one glue stick I have left kind of got hidden, and we covered things up, and I said, oh, they can't have the Lego yet. They're not ready for that. But you're very good with the Lego these days. It's such a journey of where they come, but they have a huge amount of play, and it's very much their play led as well, what they would like to do. So we very much, you know, if you love painting, brilliant, you know, go and paint. If you love the workshop,
all the parents are cringing now.
They do, that's how it's. No, what will get you will be the junk modelling. It will be the junk modelling when they walk out with some absolutely beautiful cereal box that they're going to tell you is a giraffe, and you're going to look at it and go,
I feel like I have to. So this isn't my story; it's a friend's story. And if she listens to this, she'll probably be laughing. But it was her husband, it was Dad picking up, and I think someone was in reception at the time, and he came out with some lovely junk modelling. And Dad walked across the playground and said, do they not have bins at dinner time in this place? And me and my friend, that was it. We were just absolutely wetting ourselves, and we're like, no, he's made that. He thought it was the rubbish from his dinner.
They do, and they will completely sweat. It's a laptop, it's a giraffe. This is the most wonderful car. But I feel your pain. Arthur was a workshop maker, and he used to sit there and go. Worse would be when I think I sent that box in. And now it appears to, and then they get very attached, don't they?
Yes.
They will not let you get rid of that.
It's amazing to see their imagination as well, isn't it? Like what they're actually creating from that. Like, I think it maybe depends on how you feel about the junk modelling. I know you've then got it in your house. But if you kind of sometimes take a step back and think, oh, they've create this, like,
you know, the teacher in me sat there going, and we've just ticked so many things. They're physically developed. They've used a pair of scissors. That's amazing. They've used the glue. They've used their imagination. Oh, you know, they've thought about, and quite often they've linked it to something we've learned. You know, like the child has said about giraffe, we've been doing all about Africa and comparing it to life in England, kind of thing. Well, she went and made this amazing giraffe, and she thought about the colours. my teacher head's going, she's ticked that, she's ticked this, she's ticked this, all from her just independently. I had nothing to, I'm purely an observer quite a lot. I'm observing, but then what we can do is stretch that. We can kind of get them to go in lots of directions that they didn't even know they were going to go in. Before you know, we've made a whole savannah in the construction. We've got that random bit of green material out of the cupboard, and we've had trees there, and then somebody's made a lion, and because they're 4 and they flourish under that huge praise. If you make a fuss, next thing you know, you'll have 30 giraffes coming your way and going out the door at the end of the day. Because I don't want the parents are like, you love me really, you love me really, I'm so sorry, but isn't it amazing? And they go, I
do think as a parent though, if you like, it's easy for me to sit here and say, because I was early years based, so I'd got obviously knowledge in that area, so I kind of probably did the same as you. That's ticking that box, box. But if you haven't got that knowledge, then you're not going to realise, and that's nothing to kind of. Well, as I'm saying this, if you're listening, it's nothing to kind of think, oh, well, I don't know about that. That's
my husband would have sat there and said, why? What? And he would have tried to put it in the bin.
But it's like. Everything that they're kind of doing, you might sometimes think, oh, what's the point in that? But there is a reason for it.
They go, it's things like, like if they scribble, and you'll sit there and think, oh, that's scribble. Again, I'm sat there going, but they're mark making. That's a precursor to writing. That's brilliant. Look at them, they're holding their pencil. And
again, when they tell you what they're doing, you're like, oh, yes,
that's amazing. So again, that comes back to, if your child is scribbling and wanting to draw and colour, ask them what they've done. Again, these are all building up to becoming a writer. We have this knowledge of the early years, but as a parent, the biggest thing is just talk. Ask your child questions all the time. I mean, it's one of the best things to get them ready for anything in life is talk. So whether it is they've scribbled a page and you're going to sit there and think, oh, right, okay, you just scribbled. But they might sit there and then tell you some really elaborate story about how, there's a robot and the robot has come into this and it's, and then they're going to do this and then they've got very big. And then that scribble in your head will transform on the page. And that is, and that is how they start to write. We do look at them and you do think, scribble. My children in my class, they love looking at the journey they've been on, so they love going to the front of their book and they always go, oh, look at that, it was just awful, and I'm going, well, it wasn't awful. And because we praise so much, again, sometimes they'll scribble and you go, oh, that's brilliant, that's wonderful, and then some unknown will be sat next to you kind of going, what is she saying? Why is she, a year five teacher will come down and they'll go, why is she saying that's just brilliant? But again, for me, I know that's the start of their journey, and that's the journey your children are there at the minute. What I will then do is take those steps and I will build on it and build on it and build on it before, by the end of reception, they're writing sentences, stories, and doing things that we can't even comprehend at this very precise
it's amazing,
moment.
Isn't it? My nephew's just about to finish reception, and he's now reading. And he's really like took to that. And some of the books that he's reading, and we're just like, oh my god, like it's amazing.
No, it isn't. And the pride they have in themselves as they become a reader, I think you just see them just glow. They've gone from, I mean, again, this is some things you can do over the summer, preparing your child for school. We have no expectation of you teaching your child to read or write. Actually, if we're very, very honest, please don't do it. If your child shows an interest, obviously don't ever turn them away. But every school has their own scheme of doing it. Every school has a phonics scheme they will be following. They have to have a fidelity to a phonics. Quite often, if you're like my husband, who sat in a phonics thing and he said, I haven't. What? It went completely over his head, and he just looked at me and he said, well, you're doing all that. And I did say, well, I presumed it was coming my way anyway. But it's quite hard to listen to your own children read when you've listened to children read all day. You go. But some things you can do is sing lots of nursery rhymes. Rhyme is very much, again, a precursor to that reading. So if they can rhyme, the Julie Donaldson's books are just amazing for that. Can they rhyme? Can they go cat, mat, sat, bat, rat? Can they do that? Clapping syllables in your, like going elephant.
Yeah.
You know, all these things you think.
I still can't do that.
No, I have. It's like, no, it's a really. It's like, is there 2 or is there 3? Oh, how many's in my own name?
Yeah,
no,
it's I'm doing the names.
But
and I'm like,
all these things build up to being a reader. You know, over the summer, pop them to the library. It's free. You know, go and let them have an interest in books. You know, in the early years, it does talk about, can they turn a page?
Yes.
Of a book? Can they hold the book the right way up?
Yeah.
Can they go from the front to the back? Can they, you know, do they do? So these are just little things that you can start doing at home. But the biggest thing, I mean, I know I've already said this, is coming back to talk. It's talking, but lots of rhyming, lots of clapping syllables, singing lots of songs. You know, it really, really helps with all that speech, with all the talking, but it's building up to those reading blocks. And if they have that as they come to me, the reading blocks are even quicker to build on. I mean, we do sing all the time. I mean, even my beautiful voice. But, you know, BBC Nursery Rhymes is a very good thing to have when you don't need to listen to the voice. But it's all just building blocks, getting them ready for those things. And it's doing it without them even knowing. The joy of reception is they're learning all the time without even registering.
Yeah. And it's like pointing things out on like street signs or in a shop, or and they're just kind of, it's all going in, isn't it? Even though you maybe don't think that it's doing anything, it is.
I once had a little boy and we were practicing our keyboard skills on a computer and we were typing, and he could write next and Asda beautifully because he'd obviously. And I went home to my child and I said, oh, you can probably write the word next as well, and you definitely know what Amazon looks like. Because they are taking in the whole world all the time, and we're not asking you to spend lots of money, but, you know, take them to the park. Again, the teacher and me, when you're on the monkey bars, what you are doing to prepare them for holding a pair of scissors, holding a pair of holding a pencil and writing is amazing. Because again, I mean, not to be too technical, there's whole studies have gone into, they need shoulder strength, they need elbow strength, they need to be able to rotate their whole arm before they can sit and hold a pencil. So yeah, in the summer, I mean, it's a long time. The summer is a long time to entertain our own children. But take them to the park and know that by hanging on the monkey bars or going down a slide or swinging or jumping from one leg to another is all still doing absolutely amazing things for your child to become a writer, to be physically strong. You know, holding a pencil's hard. Forming a letter is hard. It's something we work on throughout their entire school life, and even now my handwriting is not anything sparkly.
We forget as adults, don't we, that how hard it is actually to hold a pen or a pencil and form that, like, because we just do it now. We can't remember when we couldn't do it.
It's a life we've never really known. Or we're also in a world where we type and we text. True, but there is still a huge need to be able to write. We still need that skill. So we're having to compete with the iPad as well as teaching them how to hold a pencil. And whole studies again have happened where they've x-rayed hands, and boys especially, I don't want to be stereotypical, but boys especially, their hands aren't formed ready enough. So let them go and spend a summer on a monkey bar in the park, getting that strengthening, you know, stress balls. Get them to play with balls.
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh is a brilliant one. We have a very easy recipe. Google the boiling water one. It's amazing, the easiest one to do, and again, doesn't cost.
No. What I might do actually is I'll put a Play-Doh recipe if you're interested in the podcast description for this. So
brilliant.
Just have a look and I'll pop it in there.
I think I did a video during lockdown in my kitchen of how to make Play-Doh. It's like, my husband's like, oh, she's finally lost it.
That was something me and my youngest always did that, and I really enjoyed doing. Like, she helped as well, so it was like measuring out the flour and stuff and just stirring, and then obviously she got to play with it straight away, and that is something that I kind of look back on now she's much older, really fondly, as we had that little special thing that we did, and at the same time it was kind of setting a few foundations.
You just mentioned maths. You've measured out things. Stirring, again, you've got science. You've watched the transformation of your flour and your water and your colours into a Play-Doh that she can then play with. You know, it is just fascinating that how much they cover in just doing something like that.
One of the other questions, while we're kind of talking about these, there's two questions probably that are quite relevant, but One was, my child is non-verbal. How will you understand his way of communicating like I do?
We get to know your child very, very well. We will, you have children sometimes with speech disorders and things, and you tune into them. I get to the point where I can, somebody who doesn't know the child can walk into my room and kind of go, what's he just said? And I'll sit there and go, oh, he's just said it, kind of thing. Also, I think this is where the parent and teacher relationship is very much needed. I would very much, so I've had children before when I've said, if they are non-verbal or they have communication difficulties, what is your action that you use? How can I tell if they need a drink? How can I tell, I need you to tell me, and I will do exactly what you've done at home. We do the same sometimes with Polish children or children who've got English as an additional language. Could just give me those few basic words, so if they say that. So you just need to tell the teacher the cues. So they make this action if they're thirsty. They make this action if they're not happy about something. But we spend a huge amount of time with your children. We will we'll know everything about your life stories. We will know. There'll be no
that always gives me the fear with my youngest, because she's one that will tell everybody everything.
But no, we'll have no secrets. But very much it goes the other way as well. We will get to know your child incredibly well, so we will learn those social cues. We may not do it for the first few weeks. It will be a lot of trial and error. I go out quite often to parents and say, I'm really struggling getting them to do this, and they'll say, oh, well, at home we do this, and I go, brilliant, thank you. The next day I'll walk back in and go, oh, we're going to do this, and we call it something else, actually it's an activity, but we're going to call it a party, or whatever works at home, I will try at school. So it is purely about and if you've got any professionals involved with your child, ensure that you share every note you've ever had from that professional, even if it's from birth. I mean, it's fascinating. We do quite often ask about the child's birth story, and I think sometimes they go, oh, they're so nosy. But their birth can tell you a lot about what is coming, and sometimes you can sit there and say, oh, that makes sense now, or that. But anything you've ever had from a professional, we will photocopy for you. Please share with us all the journey you've ever been on with a child. We will read it through. We will go in and go, oh, so I'll do that. And then I will make that work in my classroom. So if it says they need this, they might need a workstation. Fine, I can make that. They're going to need we wear props on our lanyards, so I will have my props on my lanyard. So again, a child, if they non-verbal or they're incredibly shy or sometimes just don't want to talk, they can come and use my lanyard, or they can point to pictures and things. So teachers have a huge arsenal of equipment that we can do to get to know somebody. But I think the biggest thing is that a parent, please share.
And like you say, it is a partnership, isn't it? At the end of the day, everyone's kind of priority is the child, and you're all just trying to do what you can for the child.
And I think that's a huge thing. As a parent, you need to be very aware you are completely a partner in your child's education. You're not just handing your child to me and going, right, that's lovely. You obviously are to a certain extent, but you are a huge partner. This is your child. I will love and look after your child, but they are your child and you want the best, as I do, but you really do want the best, but you are a partner. Please read with them. If we send things home, please do. And we're all busy, everybody is so busy. But you are a huge partner. And our experience is the more you do with your child, the more you are a partner in their education. Your child will just flourish and do so well. When we come to you and say and I'm very, very honest, I'll come and say, oh, they're really struggling with their letter formation, and and then they'll be like, so what can I do? And I'll be like, right, well, here's this, for you to then go and do it. Brilliant. And the progress we then see is just amazing. But you are, a huge part of your child's life, and please continue to be, but just talk. Always the answer is to talk about everything.
And the other question was, apart from uniform, what else do we need to buy for reception starters?
Really only, different schools will be different. For us, it's a book bag, but actually we give a book bag. Everything else we provide is a water bottle. That's all I can really think of. Again, named, because they'll all buy the same one from Home Bargains.
Yeah.
I'll end
and then
up
they'll
with,
start school and they'll see someone else with one they like, and then they'll say, oh, I
or
want
somebody
that
will
one.
have juice in there secretly, even though they're only meant to have water, and then they'll all realise they're quite secretly like the Vimto, so they've all drunk the Vimto all day and not touched the water. So the only thing I can really think of is a water bottle, because the uniform, we provide everything else. We don't really want pencil cases in, we don't want toys in, we don't, I mean, please always share a book. I like it when somebody brings in a book for me to read, but bar uniform, it is purely a water bottle.
So this question is probably kind of fairly relevant while we're talking on that as well. How do you deal with the lack of information after getting so much from nursery? And I have spoken to a parent recently, actually, and she's really kind of worrying about how, probably more her, how she's going to transition from, obviously at nursery you usually have like a tapestry or whatever they use, and you do get that daily information of what they've eaten, you know, what they've been to the toilet, and it's obviously that's probably quite a big transition.
That is, I think, for a parent. I mean, you will remember the diary, don't you? They've had 4 nappies today. They've had Lamtagine, even though they'll never touch Lamtagine with you.
As an early years practitioner, so they were like, it was like, oh gosh, I've got to fill this out.
I mean, talking from our experiences, some schools do still use things like tapestry and Too Simple. We've made the decision not to. And it's not something we've particularly missed, and the parents haven't come and said to us either. I mean, it is talking to that teacher. It's also trusting us, and if we will come and tell you if they've not eaten. So kind of presume that if we've not told, you know, we know sometimes, you know, if they've not eaten a thing. There's an element of that. If I don't come to you and say, oh, they've really, really struggled, you know, with school dinners today, maybe we need to try a packed lunch. You know, we've tried a school dinner, but it's distressing them. They're eating about a mouthful of bread and a slice of cucumber, but they just can't. So mine would be, if I come and tell you, if not, they're eating and everything's all right. The same with the toileting, you know, we send them a very, very regular. And I think, again, talking from my experience, if somebody has to go to the toilet, majority of the time I do let them go. You know, do go. If when all 20 of them want to stand up on the carpet and go at once during carpet time, I'm usually a little bit more like, could you just wait a minute and please don't wait yourselves, on the carpet. It's like, just wait a minute. But we're as a school are very open, and I know different schools will do different things. But you've just got to make yourself known. Just chat. I'm always on the door and answer, you know, any question. I probably won't be able to tell you how many times they've been to the toilet. I will tell you that I've sent them to the toilet 4 times. Whether they've gone or not, I hand on heart can't tell you. You know, quite often, I think was it yesterday, I said go to the toilet before playtime. They all popped off, and then about 5 minutes into playtime, Anita, have you not just been? And they were all like, well, just went for the walk. It was like, I'm very happy for you.
Such and such was going, so I went with them.
Or we got distracted by somebody in there, or we bumped into someone in the year 1 cloakroom and we needed a really good chat. And I was like, so we didn't actually go, no, okay, are we really desperate now? And it's that. So, but I completely get, you won't get that kind of information from us. You know, our cognitive overload can only go so far. But if if toileting is a problem, again, share that, and that will be something we will, you know, kind of, we trust your children, we teach them to be very independent very, very quickly, you know, so it's things like get your own coat, get your own bag, have ownership of your jumper, find your water bottle. You know, the first few weeks completely not, but we train them very, very quick.
And I think they're like, trust is one of the biggest things with the transition. You to be able to trust the teacher. And independence, like we've discussed, that is probably, again, one of the main things, isn't it? Like, and I know that's hard for a lot of parents because they still seem so small, but it's only benefiting the child.
Definitely.
Isn't it? And, you know, they're not gonna, if they can't do it, then they can't do it. But if you don't let them try, they're never gonna know.
Yeah, no. But trust that we will look after and care for your child, and we will make sure that they are fed, they are watered, they've been to the toilet, that they've had a friend, that if they're unhappy, we've talked about it. We can't always fix everything, but we will have talked to them about it. We will we are therapists, we are social workers, we are speech, we do everything. We are a surrogate mum or a dad in those, or whatever grown up you have, we are a surrogate of that. We are never that, but we are that surrogate person during the day, while you're not there. If they need a hug, I will give, they'll come and say, please can I have a hug? Or I'm not going to say, no. It's we will clean the grazes up when they've flown across the playground for the 5th time that day, because they were wearing shorts and dresses now, so their knees are completely, we will get the first aid if they've bumped their heads. If they're not eating, we will have snack time and things. If they've really struggled with breakfast in the morning, some of mine will come in and have some breakfast with me. We try and look after every aspect of your child.
And that was another one of the questions, actually. My child is a fussy eater. What if they won't eat the school dinner?
Again, it's up to the school's policy, but one thing I would do is every school will have the menu. It's a Lancashire menu, so the menus are the same in every school. Share the menu with your child. Also put it in their terms. Like it'll say like fish goujons. Well, we all know it's a fish finger. Why we don't call it a fish finger, I don't know. Or it'll say like mini baguette something, and it's a pizza. It's a pizza. So we put it in their terms because they pick their own meal with us. They come in the morning and you give them the choice and they pick it. So I would very much talk through the menu with them. There'll be several different options on, and they can pick which option, and do put it in their terms. And if they go, oh, I don't like that, I go, well, you do actually like fish fingers, so eat those. There is the option of packed lunch if they really, really struggle with. I mean, the dinner tends to be a question we have more than anything, really. Is dinner time is a really tricky time for children. The hall is a daunting, part of our transition is they come and have dinner quite early on, but just them. And then we kind of gradually bring other people in, but by that point they've got used to getting their tray and they've got used to picking their food and they've got used to sitting down. But dinner time is a huge thing. But also, give them a very good breakfast. There'll also be fruit. We have snack time, so we have a rolling snack, and give them a snack as they leave at 3:00. They're not going to starve. If they don't eat their dinner, they will be okay. If they've got their water bottle, they've had snack. I let sometimes people, and schools will have different policies, bring in different snacks. If I know, I've had children before who've had to have an afternoon snack. They've struggled without, when you've been at nursery and you've had like 6 snacks, or you're at home. I mean, me in the summer holidays, you have 2 breakfasts, you have 11s, you've had lunch, you have an afternoon, and then I get to think I've got to go back to work just so I stop eating, and my shopping bill might go down. We all do it, don't we? You're at home and it's like, oh, it's a bit of this. So sometimes, we do let. I mean, I don't know many teachers who don't have a box of Cheerios hidden in their cupboard, but I would go through the menu, talk about it with them. If they're really, really struggling, it might have to be a packed lunch. And I know that's really annoying because school dinners are free until whatever happens today. The election might change everything. But school dinners are free. I've made my poor children have school dinners up until year 3. It's like, you don't get much free. You're going to have this school dinner. It's like you're having this school dinner.
Paying for it when it is free.
And it also takes rid of some of the mum guilt when I just give you a ham sandwich for tea.
But that's it, isn't it? It's a nice warm meal.
Yeah, you've had a good meal, and it does mean that I then can just give you a ham sandwich and a piece of cucumber because you've had that thing. But if they're very, very fussy, you explore the options. It is also, they can be very fussy at home, and it's amazing what they will eat with their peers.
This is what I was going to say, and I found this with both of my girls. I was very much, it's free, so you can try it.
Please.
Well, at least a few weeks. Well, just keep trying it, see how it go. But once they were in the situation and they were with the peers, there wasn't much that they didn't like, and even on the days they didn't really like, they'd still eat it.
Yeah, my little girl the other day, it was like some curry, something she didn't like, but she loved the rice. Yeah. She'd eaten the naan bread, and there's a salad bar. Most schools have salad bars, so she'd kind of filled up on salad and then enjoyed the pudding. Yeah. So she just hadn't eaten like a spoonful of actually the corn curry, which I was like, I get that, Phoebes. Yeah. So it was like, but it is fascinating what they will do with their peers.
And what they'll eat at school, and then they come home and you buy exactly the same thing, like, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, they will never, ever touch it at home. But I always think school dinners are worth a go. Yes. I think you need to give it a try. And we very much let you dip in and out. Like if there's a day when they really, really don't like something, a packed lunch Sunday, but different schools will have different policies. I know my children's school is you have to sign up for like a whole week.
Right, okay.
You have to do, so that would be something you'd have to explore. But packed lunches means that if you've got an incredibly picky child, you know what you've put in there. Also allergies, the kitchen will address any allergy. You know, we make badges.
Yes.
And
my eldest used to have that big badge.
The big badge. Don't give them milk under any circumstances. And the kitchen get to know them. But again, in those first few days when they're an unfamiliar face, you know, the cook's unfamiliar, the child's unfamiliar, we do put a big badge on them that says, you know, no nuts, no milk, whatever their allergy is. But the kitchen will accommodate all of that. They will be able to accommodate that. So again, that's the kind of information please do share with schools. You know, if there's any problems like that, please share.
One of the other questions that we got was, there's two, they're slightly similar. One was, my child has a developmental delay. They want to make friends, but I'm worried the other children won't understand. And then there was another question on, what if my child feels lonely, doesn't make friends?
I mean, as a parent, all you care about is your child making friends. Yeah. I remember going into parents' evenings. I couldn't care less about their academic ability. I mean, I know I needed to, and I needed to make sure that their reading was doing what it needed to do. But my overriding thing was I couldn't care less about their academic ability. All I wanted to know was, did they have friends and were they happy? Because unless a child is happy, they are not going to learn anything. And friendships and feeling safe and secure and knowing they've got a trusted grown-up to talk to is the only way you can make their child safe and happy. Talking about the development delay, my experience of 4-year-olds is they are probably the most... We should all be like 4-year-olds. They don't notice any differences. They are caring. You become their people. Like, they will band round any child with additional needs. It's just who that child is. And they completely accept it. Quite often they'll try and help, even if their help is sometimes more of a hindrance. You know, they'll be like, I'm giving them a hug. And I'm thinking, I don't know if they want a hug right now. And they're hugging them because they're trying to help in some way or anything. But as a parent, I completely get the worry. My son had a speech disorder, and my anxiety about him starting school was huge. And again, my husband kept going, but you're a reception teacher. How is your... But it was incredibly hard, and all I kept asking, is he making friends? Does anybody understand him? You know, do they know what he's saying? Because I know what he's saying. So I've been on both sides of the thing. But these children, we should be more for, because they won't. They will just accept that child is who they are. They will get to know them. They will be very accepting of, you know, we have children sometimes you can't access the carpet time, or... You know, maybe they'll snatch a toy a bit more than maybe we would use. You know, you wouldn't say, you'd be like, oh no, they're playing. They'll just be sat there going, oh, it's them, that's fine. And then they'll hand over everything, and you're sat there going, you don't maybe have to get everything. You know, we've also got to do. And the friendship, we have to accept that children are happy in their own company. You know, a classroom is a very busy place. Not many children have done full-time at nursery, you know, depending on what hours. Like, my children never did full-time at nursery. I know the hours are going up, but if you only access 15 hours, it's a huge shock. Sometimes they do need to be on their own, so you're not to worry about that. I like my own company. 4-year-olds like their own company. So don't, you know, sometimes they do just want some time. And they're also fickle. Therefore, who their best friend is on Thursday is a very different best friend to Friday. Who they cling to in September is a very different person to who they cling to in December. They change their minds. I think they spend the reception year working out who they want to spend their time with, who they want to be friends with, and that changes on a daily, hourly, nearly minutely, you know, time kind of thing. But they will find their friends. They will find the people that have similar things. They will find their friends, you know, and then they get very close. And then they bicker and drive all our lives, you know, slightly bananas as well.
And I think that's the other thing as well. It's just like knowing your child, isn't it? And knowing kind of how you've seen them interact with others, who they are, and like you say, and there's different types of like play as well, isn't there? Like, I think as parents we get so fixated, they're playing on their own, whereas they might just not be ready to. There's different names for it, isn't there?
There is, and actually,
without going into it too much, like them playing on their own isn't necessarily a bad thing, is it? It doesn't mean that they can't make friends or they're not going to make friends.
And coming back to this, we've talked about how the journey of writing, the journey of reading, the journey of talking. There is also an emotional journey. There's this social thing. Sometimes actually they'll play alongside because they're figuring it out. They're figuring out, do I want to talk to this person? Do I like what they're playing? Do I like the look of their game? No, I don't like this one. So I'm going to go and walk over here and I'm going to see what this person... So they play alongside as one of their first stages. Then the alongside play becomes, play they do together. And then the play becomes bigger. And then sometimes it becomes too big and then they go, I've had enough of this. There's too many here. And I don't like your opinion. Because children also are very strong-minded. I know what my play is going to look like. In my head, I am building this castle and I'm doing it this way. And Joe Blogg's over there. He wants to put a horse in here. Not having it. Absolutely do not want that horse anywhere near my castle. So no. So I'm moving over here. They're strong-willed. They know what they want. But the friendship, it develops. But they will pick I think, reception. You see it because quite often they cling to the people they know from nursery if they've gone with people from nursery. By Christmas, I always find Christmas is quite a turning point. They grow up over Christmas. That Christmas to Easter sometimes feels like that's when they do the most. They change the most. They grow up the most. They learn almost the most in that time. And that's when they kind of pick their friends.
I remember when my youngest started and she made her best friend because on one of the first few days she liked her shoes and told her, and then from that point that was it.
No, I've got a pretty bow in my hair or something, because they will also comment on everything about anybody, and it's also things that we sometimes don't even notice. I sometimes, if I wear a different pair of shoes, they spend the whole day going, what's she wearing today? I wore different glasses, or I wear a different earring, and they're like, oh, this is, but they see the world in a way that we've forgotten how to see the world, and we just sometimes have to think, they're 4, let's see the world through their eyes. And I think as long as your child is happy, we've got to be sometimes as parents incredibly careful we do not put our worries on them.
100%.
And it is so much easier said than done.
Totally.
We sometimes our anxiety, because we have hindsight. We know what is coming with life.
And sometimes our own experiences can cloud that, can't they? And we kind of worry that
some of our parents' school can have been an awful place for you. School can hold a lot of trauma for you, and we completely understand that. And we're trying to make sure that your child is as trauma free as humanly possible. But it is, I think, as a parent, you do, I got very worked up about my youngest starting because of his speech, because of lots of other things, and he was my baby, and I was like, oh, you don't want him to go. But we have to make sure that as long as your child is happy, even if them being happy isn't how you think it should be, in your head, being happy is being surrounded by the entire class, is being friends with everybody. But if they're happy is having that one best friend and being quiet and enjoying reading a book or painting, if they are happy, that is all that matters. And we as parents, I think, sometimes do have to put, even as teachers, we find what do they love doing, what are they good at. We have to very much keep that perspective of let them be, and if they are happy, that is, I think, all we ever, teachers, parents, grown-ups, carers, whoever it is, if your child is happy, then they're ready to do everything then.
And I think it's maybe important as well in terms of friendships to acknowledge that it's not always just going to run smoothly.
No, absolutely not.
Children, we all have emotions, and they're learning very much so how to understand and process their emotions, and that's maybe where at home we can also support and do a bit of role modelling in terms of how if our child tells us something about a friendship, we kind of maybe try and offer balanced comments on that. And we have to kind of remember that, yes, our child is our priority, but every child in that class is going to be their grown-up's priority as well, and you're kind of coming together to try and You know,
and they're all my priority.
Yes.
You know, like all 30 or whatever
Yeah.
are all my priority. And, you know, the friendship, they will fall out. They become very like, you know, siblings. And because they're 4 and they don't have a filter, you know, they have no filter. So they will tell their friend, you know, we as grown-ups wouldn't tell our friends, particularly you're annoying or I don't like what you're wearing today. You know, we've learned those social skills. A 4-year-old doesn't. You know, they'll tell me I've got a spot, or they'll tell me that they don't like something. You know, it's like, thanks.
And then they come home and tell you what they've said, and you're cringing, thinking, oh my God.
But that's because they are at that, you know, that journey again. They're at that journey emotionally, and sometimes maybe we should all channel that. Let's be quite blunt and tell people how we really. Just sometimes they are a bit blunt, and you know, you sit there and go. Well, I do. I completely understand.
A little bit.
I do understand why they are now crying, because actually maybe if you'd have said that to me, I would have maybe had a cry. So, and it's validating their emotions as well. It's kind of not brushing it off either. It's kind of going, do you know, I get why you feel like that. You know, if somebody had said that to me, I would be upset, and I get it. But should we think about how, you know, because we also have to have that resilience, don't we? And we have to build up that strength, because again, we've got hindsight. We know the world these children are going into, and I think that's part of the reason we would like to freeze time and keep them where they are. But we know the world they're going into.
Another question was, how can we help the youngest children, this is from a parent of a July baby, to settle in when there are other children who will turn 5 straight away?
It's hard, isn't it? Because those 5-year-olds, I have a September baby. My eldest is a September baby. So she's had another whole year on the planet before, you know, before they have even been born. And it is hard. And we do, as we look at our data, when we look at a lot of our things, we do still identify some are born. It doesn't get identified higher up the school. It doesn't, your birth date doesn't affect anything higher up the school. You know, when the year 6 SATs come out, they won't sit there and go, oh, they're an August birthday, or they're a this birthday. We do still look at that, because we are very mindful that a whole extra year, when you've only had 4 years, you know, on the planet, is that. But preparing them, just keep doing everything you know you still do. You know, they do, it doesn't, I can't often pick out who is, you know, you sometimes have a surprising September birthday.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the individual child.
It is very, I've had a child before August the 31st birthday, and it didn't affect anything. So it's very much about the child, but it is being mindful of, you know, kind of keep giving them all those experiences. And they might take a little bit longer to pick up a pencil, they might take a little bit longer. You might find you're singing nursery rhymes maybe to that child a bit longer than maybe you are the September birthday child might be like, oh no, I'm past that now. I'm past that. But you might find that they're still needing that kind of imaginative play, those kind of, the teddies, the kind of going to bed early, they will be exhausted. But that is quite normal of every child. But we do have it in the back of our minds. We are mindful that your child has had 1 less year, and that some experiences are brand new. So it's just keep giving them those experiences, and just being aware that maybe they might not pick up a pencil quite as quickly because they're actually physically not formed as much, and not worrying about it, because it does fade out. It's not something that, you know, an August birthday doesn't hang over your head in education for a long time. You know, it's there.
And then the last kind of thing I had was I don't know, I feel like this one is a little bit like it probably it's going to pull on the heartstrings of the parents that our children are about to start, and it all just feels too soon.
It does, doesn't it? And I mean, Finland send their children at 7, Scotland send their children I think a year older than we do. It does feel too soon, but coming back to what we've said throughout this whole conversation, trust us. We will look after your child. They will love school. They will love their experiences. They will love everything that we do. There'll be days they're tired, grumpy. I mean, we can tell we're getting to the summer term. You know, we're all getting tired and grumpy. It's like, how many weeks have we got to go? And it feels too soon, but there's not much we can also do about that.
I think it's just acceptance and acknowledging and not trying to, I guess, preempt too much, which I think is something else that we do. We
don't
kind of run away with
it.
ourselves, don't we? And we just kind of have to just take it a day at a time and just go with it. And
your child will astound you. They will astound you of what they can achieve in their reception year. They will astound you with how much they cope with. They will astound you with how much they learn. They will astound you with how much they're going to change. They will just amaze you. Put your faith in your child, because they can do so much. They can achieve so much. They can also cope with so much more than what we think at 3 a.m. when we're awake, worrying about these things, thinking, I know nearly at the secondary school level, and I'm equally feeling as awful about that as it's the parents say, but I know she's ready. She's ready for that next stage. And we see it in nurseries when we visit all our nurseries, and we visit, these children are ready. They're ready to go. We've done nursery. It's been lovely. I've loved it. I'm going to have a little cry when I leave my key worker. I'm going to talk about my nursery at school for a bit because we're attached to it. My children now, they'll just about remember what nursery they went to, but they'll do the same with me. I will be their absolute main person. They will spend a few weeks in year 1 going, oh, hugging me. Then they go off. Then they go off, and you're like, well, you've broken my heart. Thank you very much there. But they go off. But your child is capable of so much. But we are all here every step of the journey to help, whether it is eating, whether it is friendships, whether it is losing your jumper for the 500th time that year, whether it is they're struggling with their reading, it's not maybe going quite as quickly as we want. We have so many skills and knowledge that we will help every step of the way with whatever it is. So just let us look after our child, but please keep talking to everybody, and you know what, they will love it. They will absolutely love.
And I think for me, I mean, I've just done an episode on the transition to secondary.
I'll listen to that.
And, so I've kind of said this about my eldest, but with both of my girls, when they started primary, it is amazing when they come home and they're telling you things and they're doing things, and like when you have your parents' evening and you find out how they're settling, and it is amazing when you see them just becoming the really kind of, this is where they start getting to become their own person.
Yes, definitely.
And that independence kind of enables that, and they sort of really grow into, well, they're starting to grow now into who they're going to be. And that bit for me as a parent, that is the bit that I always love the most, because that you kind of have this idea of who your child's going to be, and that doesn't mean to say that's who they are going to be.
You project, don't you?
Yeah, so when you actually see that, and sometimes like when they say something that they don't like and you'd expect them to like, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. And I love that part of parenting, of just seeing who they are like growing into.
That tidbit they give you in the bath or at bedtime, their favourite time to tell you their whole life story at bedtime, where they'll suddenly proceed to tell you everything they know about their teacher, everything they've learned that day, despite the fact that at 3:30 they've just gone, ugh. And that's because they've had a busy entire day, so don't expect lots out of them at 3:30. Let them go and have a bit of TV and iPad time. Let them go and have a bit of downtime. Give them a snack. Let them have a bit. We work them hard. The expectations on us, on the children, are incredibly high. Rightly or wrongly, they are high, and they meet it. The children rise to that. But they will also be tired. Their stamina takes quite a bit to build.
Yeah, I find that now. If my youngest is just finishing year 3 now, and even now, when we walk through the door, if she doesn't have like an hour downtime, on her own, just chilled or having a cuddle, or she just no.
And they won't tell you anything at that point, which is why they wait for bedtime and bath time to tell you their whole life story.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to follow, share with other parents you know, and if you haven't already, please leave a review on the app that you're listening on. A new episode is released every week. Follow or subscribe to be notified when each new episode goes live. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please get in touch via any of my social media channels, website or email. Thank you, Becky, for joining me on today's episode. It's been great to have you, and thank you to everyone for listening.